Kia ora New Zealand, welcome to March for Life 2021, and it's slightly different this year because we are online and we're glad that you could join us either on our Facebook page or on our website. And please click the share button and share so that other people can be aware that this is happening, and also put some comments in the comments section so we know where you are. I'm Bob McCoskrie, National Director of Family First.
Hi everyone, I'm Agnes Lohini, former Member of Parliament, really pleased to be with you today.
And we're very stoked and honoured to have you, Agnes.
Thank you, Bob.
And we're coming from the Auckland studios, but we also have some co-hosts around the country. And in fact, we have some co-hosts down in Wellington, and that is Wayne Mulqueen from Focus on the Family and Kate Cormack from Voice for Life. Come in, Wayne and Kate.
Hey there, how you going?
Hi everyone.
Hey,
I'm
what's
Kate
the weather
Cormack,
like down
the
there?
National President of Voice for Life.
Oh. Sorry, I interrupted you. I just wanted to do a quick weather check because I wanted to make sure. I mean, normally we would be marching down there and it looks rainy and wet and cold.
Yeah, the blizzard's just about here, so we should be all right though.
Okay, now sorry for interrupting you. Carry on with your formal introduction, please.
Thanks, Bob. Yeah, hi everyone. It is a bit drizzly and cold here in Wellington, but what's new? So,
Kate Cormack,
I am Kate Cormack,
Voice for Life.
and I am the National President of Voice for Life.
And I'm Wayne Mulqueen, the Director for Focus on the Family New Zealand.
And today we're streaming to you live from Parliament Grounds in our capital city, Wellington. The annual March for Life is a unified effort between New Zealand's pro-life organisations, Voice for Life, Family Life International, Focus on the Family, and Family First. And although we sadly needed to cancel our in-person march this year, we hope this one-hour program will inspire and uplift you, especially Kiwi pro-lifers who've had a tough year, until we can hopefully meet together in person next December. As you're watching today, we want to hear from you. Be sure to leave us a comment on our Facebook Live telling us where you're watching from and what you're enjoying about our program. Whether you're watching on March for Life's website or on our Facebook page, be sure to hit the share button and send a link out to your friends and family now.
Yeah, share it.
Let's see how many hundreds are marching for life right now online today. We're going to keep an eye on those numbers and let you know how they're going. Also, be sure to post a pic of your viewing party and use the hashtag March for Life New Zealand so we can see it too. Back to you, Agnes.
Thank you, Kate.
Thank you. Good to see you. Actually, Agnes, that looks familiar because that was your home ground for what, how long?
About 18 months,
18
Bob.
months. Was that 18 months not enough or 18 months too much?
I won't say any more on that, but it was good to be there, and I was really pleased to be part of the Abortion Legislation Select Committee. But Bob, it's really unfortunate that we can't be there in Wellington in person to march together, to celebrate life. But instead of cancelling the event, I think it's really great that we could hold something virtual to still encourage people in this fight for life and to show people that this is global, it's around the world. And do you remember last year that particular group that were chanting and singing along the streets of Lambton Quay?
Well, I mean, I remember the sausage sizzle and the and the sort of musical events and the jazz beforehand. But like you said, there was this wonderful group that just did great gospel songs and made a real noise as we marched towards Parliament.
And so those voices will be joining us today in this virtual live. So the next clip you're going to get is the Mother of Divine Mercy Refuge Home. There's young voices. They were so energetic in the march last year and also in the previous ones. So let's have that clip.
for you. In my heart, there's a permanent place for you. This is my prayer to the Lord, yeah. This is the prayer that I pray, yeah. This is my prayer to the Lord, yeah. This is the prayer that I pray, yeah. We are the world, we are the children, we are the ones who make a brighter day, so let's start living. We are the world, we are the children, we are the ones who make a brighter day, just you and me. Do you know I say every day I do pray for you? In my heart there's a permanent place for you. This is my prayer to the Lord, yeah. This is the prayer that I pray, yeah. This is my prayer to the Lord, yeah. This is the prayer that I pray, yeah.
All right, thank you to MDM, fantastic performance. And I mean, they used to travel down on buses. I think they used to sleep pretty rough when they used to come down. They used to really sacrifice to be part of the March for Life. So it's great to have their input.
And look, these are young people who've overcome so much adversity, and look, listen to the joy that they bring with their singing and their voices. So thank you very much.
So we are marching for life. We're marching for human rights of the unborn. And I think that what the proponents of the very liberal law that was passed in New Zealand last year did a good job of was masking the true effect of the law and the effect it would have. So we're going to take a quick look at some of the stats around this law so that you can understand why we need to continue marching for life. Here are some of the basic statistics of the year that has just happened, 2020, since the law was passed. You will see there are 13,246 abortions in New Zealand in 2020, and that is up from 12,857 in the previous year. So unlike the promise, Agnes, that we were told that this law wasn't going to increase abortions, of course the opposite has happened, hasn't it?
The opposite's happened, and those numbers are very clear.
If we also look at the number of known pregnancies that have ended in abortion, 18.6%, and so that is up from 17.7%, so of pregnant people more likely to have an abortion. This is disturbing. 36%, a third of abortions in New Zealand were for the second or more abortion. And in fact, I read that more than 500 abortions last year, Agnes, were onto their third or more abortion. That's disturbing, because that shows that it's not an abortion in what they may say is extreme circumstances. That's almost a contraceptive, that's almost a lifestyle.
That's a very sad figure in hearing that, Bob. And again, it really is about something's happened in our culture around valuing life.
45% increase in late-term abortions, and the concern was always that the law has liberalised the access to late-term abortions. Now, you won't be told that. You'll be told, no, you can't have abortion up to 40 weeks. Yes, you can now. It used to be just in exceptional circumstances where it was the life-threatening of the mother, for example. But now it is much more liberalised, and already, just in 1 year, a 45% increase in late-term abortions. That's quite distressing, isn't it? That's abortions 21 weeks on. And I mean, it's distressing because I don't know if you saw, Agnes, during the week, there was an amazing story of a baby that was born at 21 weeks in 1 day, and it was actually shown on mainstream New Zealand TV. And it's kind of like the science is actually backing up our pro-life stance, isn't it?
Ultimately, Bob, the unborn child is the smallest versions of us.
Let's have a look at just the effect of the law. It was passed while we were going into lockdown. And I think, Agnes, that was one thing that really riled me because, you know, COVID was on our shores. We were locking down to protect vulnerable people. And unfortunately, you were having to sit in Parliament while they were trying to ram through one of the most extreme abortion laws in the world on our most vulnerable people of all. I mean, that must have seemed surreal.
It was surreal, Bob, and you know, some of us like you and I would say that this wasn't a priority for our country, that time should have been taken to allow other people to have their voices heard on this, but yes, this went through at that time.
And yet the public submissions, 90% opposed the law, and in fact when we did polling on it we found that even people that supported abortion in principle actually they still didn't want the law liberalised. People still have a gut opposition to abortion, even if they think that a woman has a right to choose, don't they?
Absolutely. So, you know, that particular part of the bill around the late stage abortion was an issue that most people were very uncomfortable with.
So what was the effect of the law? Well, it basically gave the unborn child the same status as an appendix, gallbladder or tonsils. It refused to recognise that the unborn child is a life or has any right to life. That is the effect of the law. It allows for late-term abortions for any reason, as we talked about earlier. There is no duty to provide care for a child who survives an abortion, because remember, the intent is to abort the child. So born alive, there's no explicit provision around that. Let's move on to the next bit. Allows home abortions with little supervision. In fact, during lockdown, you could actually get the abortion pills delivered to your home, which is kind of grotesque to think about. But of course, the concern is if there's complications for the woman taking the surgical home abortion, isn't there? No checks on women being coerced, whether they're being coerced by a boyfriend or family members to have an abortion. There's no parental notification for teenage abortions, so parents once again being left out of the loop. There's no law against sex selection abortions, and we know that that's an issue in certain cultures where boys are favoured over girls. But for some reason, Agnes, the feminists were missing when they talk about sex selection abortions. Where are they?
There was no logic here applied here, Bob.
And they removed the previous 20-week time limit for disability abortions, and that's concerning, and we'll actually come back to that point. Yeah. So that is the effect of the law, and just a reminder, we want you to hashtag March for Life NZ, because it's important that people receive this information and are aware of what's going on in New Zealand. Now, who's our next guest, Agnes?
So if you're joining March for Life NZ for the first time, this was started in New Zealand in 2017 out of a desire to be part of the global movement for March for Life, which actually began in Washington, DC in 1974 after Roe v. Wade was passed in 1973. So our next guest speaker that you will hear from is an incredibly special woman who is the current president of March for Life, and that is Jeannie Mancini.
Hello friends in New Zealand. We really want to congratulate the New Zealand March for Life this year. Like the United States of America, you are one of the countries that sadly has the most extreme abortion laws in our world. We in the United States join with you in solidarity as we all work together to build a culture of life. Please do not be discouraged. Know that every single one of you makes a huge difference in building a culture of life. I'm Jeannie Mancini. I'm president of the March for Life in Washington, D.C. in the United States of America.
Hello, Amy.
And on behalf of all of the marchers in the United States, we join with all of you, our friends in New Zealand, as you continue today to build a culture of life. Thank you and God bless you.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
Okay, let's...
on behalf of all of the marchers.
Amy, here we are. Amy, you are live. We are listening.
Hi everyone,
watching.
I'm Amy Cochran from Next Generation, which is part of Family Life International, and we are so excited to be joining you live in the backyard of Family Life International. So these are some of my great friends here joining me for an in-person watch party, and it is just so incredible to have them here, and we are all pro-life! And Jeannie, what an amazing message. It was so incredible when I was able to go to the Washington DC March for Life, early 2020 in fact, and there were just thousands of pro-lifers standing up for the injustice of abortion. And I just really hope that in New Zealand we can have thousands of people joining us as well. And coming up next, we have Heidi Krauter, and she is a young person with Down syndrome. And she is just so inspiring. She campaigns for life, and especially for the disabled, the unborn with disabilities. And she just really powers through, and I really hope that you guys get something from this, feel inspired, and know that you are not alone in this fight for life. So let's give a warm welcome for Heidi Krauter.
Hi, I'm Heidi, and I'm 26 years old, and I happen to have Down syndrome. When I found out about the discriminatory laws that a baby with disability cannot be aborted up to birth, I was shocked to the very core. I believe that everyone is precious. There is no such thing as a perfect baby. We are all fearfully and wonderfully made. I decided to take the UK government to the High Court. The court case was in July. In September, we found out that we'd lost. I cannot put into words how distraught I was. But like William Wilberforce, when he wanted to change the law on slavery, he didn't give up. And I will not give up. We have asked the Court of Appeal to hear the case. I hope we win. I hope we can get the law changed in New Zealand. I would love to come to New Zealand, as I'm a big fan of the Disney version of The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe, which is set in New Zealand. Let's do this. Have a good day. Stay happy.
Well, thank you, Heidi. That is a really important message, and we are right behind you in your fight against disability abortions and that discrimination that goes with that. Actually, Agnes, that was an interesting thing because during the abortion debate, the Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern actually said that the safeguards around abortions for disabilities, the time would not be extended, but that promise wasn't kept, was it?
I didn't see anything that is in the bill that was looking to protect, babies around fetal abnormalities and obviously Down syndrome. So there is no protection there for those babies as well.
It seemed like in the whole discussion, I mean, it must have been, as I said, surreal for you because you were actually on the committee considering this bill, and it must have felt like the weight of just this desire for abortion was just overwhelming, and people were coming to the committee. Was that hard work for you? That must have been quite depressing.
There were pockets of time where I did feel that sort of burden, but Bob, that didn't last long because I and other MPs, we were inundated with emails, and as we've said, over 91,000 submissions, one of the highest ever on, people submitting to a piece of legislation, and that is incredible. That is absolutely incredible. And so the voices were heard, and organisations up and down this country were just rallying together. They were knocking on the MPs' doors and really voicing their concerns over this. And I just think that just gave me so much hope.
And I think the disability groups really came out in force on that particular issue that we just heard about, didn't they?
Yes, they did. And as I said, everybody just came together. They could see that this was a bill that really needed some time to be considered. It did feel like it was rushed through. And, unfortunately, the bill passed in the end. It is now enacted. But I have hope because those voices are still out there and they're as strong now as ever before.
And I think we can take encouragement because as we talked about the Roe v. Wade case back in the 70s, and yet they are seeing amazing movement in the States. Of course, there is a case right before the Supreme Court as we speak, but there has also been some incredible legislation passed around the United States to protect the unborn child, the fetal heartbeat, the parental notification, etc., the pain capability one. So, there has been progress, and I guess that's a reminder that we can't pack our bags. We have to keep in the fight for the unborn child.
That's right, and this is part of a global movement, and I think you're going to introduce someone from the United States who's a strong voice in this area as well. Yeah,
Ryan Bomberger, and I actually met him in 2007 in Washington, DC. He was conceived of rape, and he was adopted into a Christian family of 15, a multiracial Christian family, and he has formed the Radiance Foundation. He calls himself a factivist, and he is also the author of a book called Not Equal, Civil Rights Gone Wrong. He's an impressive guy, and Kate got the chance to interview him.
So a big warm welcome to Ryan Bomberger, all the way from Virginia in the United States. It's so exciting to have you talking with us today for the March for Life New Zealand online. So I'd love if you could just introduce yourself to the New Zealand audience that's watching today and share a bit about who you are as the founder of the Radiance Foundation. You're also an author, and I know you have a wonderful podcast with your wife, Bethany. So I'd love if you could just introduce yourself and share a bit about your personal story.
Sure. My name is Ryan Bomberger, and I'm married to an awesome woman. Her name is Bethany Bomberger, and we both founded the Radiance Foundation about 13 years ago because we wanted to tackle really tough culture shaping issues. And so she as an educator and I was a creative director for about 13 years, we wanted to take on these issues and equip people to know how to address these issues. And of course, fundamentally, the most important issue is life, because without life, nothing else matters. And so I'm a little passionate, you could say, about the issue of life. I'm from a tiny little family of 15. I have 6 brothers and 6 sisters. 10 of us were adopted and loved like crazy. All of us were loved like crazy. And so having 2 parents whose faith really shaped their whole worldview and also led them to love those that the world would just throw away, like me, and 9 of my other siblings, they really just shattered that whole myth of the unwanted child. And so when you talk about the issue of abortion, I'm that part of the conversation that people inevitably get to, because they always ask the question, well, what about rape? I'm part of the answer to that. I'm that tangible example. I'm the 1% that's used 100% of the time to justify abortion. But my birth mom, despite the horror and the violence of rape, not only gave me the incredible gift of life, she gave me the incredible gift of adoption. So here I am, present day. I got an awesome wife, Bethany, who's, we're partners in this fight for justice. We have 4 amazing kiddos, 2 of whom were also adopted. So if someone ever asked me, well, why do you care about this? How can I not care about this? I was conceived in rape, but I was adopted and loved. Wow. And we all need to know that the circumstances of our conception never change the condition of our worth. So that's why my wife and I will fight for the most marginalized, the most vulnerable, and the most defenseless.
Wow, that's incredibly powerful and redemptive. So redemptive.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I've watched a bit of your speaking, and I love how you talk about the term factivism. I was wondering if you could just unpack that a little bit. What's your idea around factivism?
Yeah, well, people have probably seen, actually around the world, not this past summer, but the summer of 2020, here we call it, the summer of BLM and Antifa, where you saw all kinds of activism. And this is the thing, when someone feels that something is unjust, I applaud them for wanting to fight for justice. However, we have to know the context. We have to know what is actually shaping the issue. And so many people just go out and they act without the facts. And we see the dangerous consequences of that, because when that happens, you just act out of emotion. There's a lot of destruction that happens. And here in the United States, we saw $2 billion worth of destruction in cities across this country because people acted without the facts. So I'm a factivist. We're emotional beings. We're human beings, but we have to, especially as pro-lifers, we fuse the emotional with the evidential. And so what we do through the Radiance Foundation as factivists is we bring context and clarity to these culture shifting issues. We shouldn't have an excuse for not knowing what's going on. It's not enough to just say, oh, well, there's an injustice or this is epidemic. We actually need to know the stats. We need to know some of the stories behind it all. And so that's why I'm a factivist. I want people to care about injustice, but I also want them to know why they're fighting.
That's so good. I think that's so important as well. And like you said, especially in the pro-life movement. And the best part about that is the facts are on our side.
Yes.
in the pro-life movement, and we can use that as our foundation. And so totally on board with your activism. In New Zealand, we've had a pretty rough couple of years. In March 2020, the Abortion Legislation Act was passed here, and it is one of the most extreme anti-life abortion laws in New Zealand, in the world, globally. And I just wondered if you had a message of encouragement for Kiwi pro-lifers as we continue in the fight for life. And just, wanted to hear your thoughts on, especially from your perspective and what you've been fighting in the US. And
Yes, it's easy to get so discouraged when you see, so many different battlefronts. It feels like we're losing on this one, we're losing on that one. But the great thing is we're winning on some battlefronts, even when we feel like we're outnumbered. And I'll tell you this, first of all, sometimes just turn off social media, because social media amplifies the lie all the time. And so it feels like, wait a minute, there are even fewer of us, but actually there's so many more of us. I love, Kiwi pro-lifers, American pro-lifers, whatever it is, we're brothers and sisters in this fight. And I just want to give you an example. Just here in the States, if you think about slavery, you think of how discouraged abolitionists were. They tried over and over again. They tried all kinds of laws that were considered, these incremental laws. We're gonna inspect slave ships. And people thought, how is that going to get rid of slavery? But they had to get those wins wherever they could get them. And for us, and as a Christian, I fully believe, we have to constantly go to prayer in all this. That's our first resort. That's our last resort. And while we're doing that, we keep hoping, and we keep fighting, peacefully fighting for the end of this injustice. I'll tell you what, it took years and years, you're talking over a century, for the injustice, the inhumanity of chattel slavery to be abolished. But thank God, I don't know if you can notice, but I'm just a little brown. I thank God that abolitionists didn't give up. There were decades and decades where they felt like, these pro-slavery politicians, they're the ones in control. But guess what? Things change and the tide changes. And so I just want to encourage you, Kiwi pro-lifers, never give up. What is right now won't be tomorrow.
that is so right. I completely agree. The tides are changing here in New Zealand, and we're going to fight harder than we have the last 50 plus years. So watch this space.
Yes.
Well, thank you so much, Ryan, for speaking to us. We just really want to encourage you and your ministry, you and Bethany's ministry in the US and globally. We know you're having a massive impact, especially sharing your powerful story. And probably most importantly, raising your 4 wonderful children. So yeah, thank you so much for being with us today.
Hey, thank you. And thank you for fighting for God-given purpose that is in every single life from the moment of conception onward. God bless you guys. Keep fighting.
Bob, that was an incredibly powerful testimony by Ryan Bomberger there. I particularly loved the line where he said, "The circumstances of our conception never change the condition of our worth."
Yeah, it was a common argument that always came up with abortion, isn't it? That it says, oh, well, what about rape? And it's interesting, if you ever push back on that statement and say, okay, well, let's, for example, let's take rape out of the equation. Are you saying that you oppose all the other 99.8% of abortions? They quickly say, they don't say, yeah, that's correct, Bob. They say, oh, no, I'm just, it's really an excuse, isn't it? That whole scenario is actually just an excuse for them to support abortion, isn't it?
And the other thing that came through, I think, also in that video was just around compassion. It is that desire to support them both.
So as a lead up to this march online, and we are wearing slightly different shoes than what we probably would have worn if we were marching down...
I don't know about that.
No, you were based in Wellington. What was it? Courtney Way, is it?
Lambton Quay.
Lambton Quay, sorry. And what was the park that we normally gather at? Oh, sorry, that was a spot test. Someone can message it through anyway. In the lead up to the event, we did some online challenges, and there were 4, and actually there was some fantastic entries. So it was actually hard picking a winner, but as you will see, the winners did deserve their prize pack from March for Life. So the first challenge was a short creative video telling us why I march for life. And the winning video was from Rebecca.
I march for the mums who feel like they have no choice. And I march for the babies who don't. For the thousands of lives taken every year. Because I believe in the right to life. I march to use my voice on behalf of those who had theirs taken away. Because while your body is your choice, their body is not. But most of all, I march because I love them. Because I love them both.
Well done, Rebecca. Great job. Now, our second challenge was to design a pro-life message using a mask or a t-shirt. And I guess in these particular days where everybody is having to wear a mask and they're trying to look for creative ones, Elena came out with this very creative mask on the theme. So check out this mask. Well done, Elena. Fantastic artistry work on that one.
Awesome.
The third category was that was a bit of a toughie. It was to write an original pro-life song. And let me just tell you about the winner. The winner is Darwin Fijos. And she is a wife and mum of two. I messaged her just before we came online because I wanted to get some quick background. She is originally from the Wairarapa, now living in Auckland. She is a singer-songwriter and worship leader. And the song took her about 10 years to write.
Wow.
That's a labour of love. The music was produced by Josh Klinkenberg, and the idea for the animation, which you will see in this video, came at 4 a.m, when all our greatest ideas come. And the animation was brought to life by Sam Robertson. The funny thing about this video is that somebody messaged me the video that had just gone online on her page, just privately, and I had a watch of it and I thought, that is fantastic. And I reached out to her and just said, hey, that was great, congratulations. And of course, then I found out that it was actually the winning video for March for Life. So this is kind of like the world premiere of this particular video. Have a watch.
Little heartbeat broken from the pain. I have a heart that beats on my own. Yours is the voice I already know. And until I breathe, you are my home. So don't give me wings, I'm not ready to fly. Don't turn away, don't close your eyes, 'cause I have a dream to live when I die. You hold the keys to my life, so choose life, so choose life, so choose life, so choose life. Little heartbeat, little heartbeat, little heartbeat, little heartbeat.
Okay.
Wow, that was a fantastic video, beautiful song. Delwyn, keep writing those songs. Choose life.
Choose life.
Yeah, choose life. That was fantastic.
That's why we're here.
Now, the winner of the fourth and final challenge, and it was a sticker and or a poster, and this was stickers put on a car, and it was so recent that I've actually lost a record of who actually won it. The winner was, I'm going to have to come back and tell you that one. Okay, no, I'm going to have to, here we are. The winner is Elise. Elise, well done. Sorry about that. It was so, the competition was so fresh and we only just named the winner. So Elise, congratulations on that very creative sticker.
Yes, so congratulations to all the winners, and also thank you very much to everybody that's participated in these competitions. So now, Bob, we're going to move on to the next clip. So we're going to hear from someone across the ditch, our lovely neighbours in Australia, and the next guest speaker is Rebecca Gosper, who is Director of Life Choice Australia.
Hey pro-lifers, my name is Rebecca Gosper and I'm the Managing Director of Life Choice Australia. We are Australia's pro-life youth movement and we represent hundreds of pro-life university students and young adults around the country. So I know that you guys have been having a difficult time in New Zealand lately with all the anti-life legislation that's been coming up in your parliament. And we've experienced the same thing here in Australia throughout our states and territories over the past few years. But I really just want to encourage you and remind you that this isn't the end of the pro-life movement by any means. If anything, the movement's just going to get stronger as you work harder and harder to protect the little ones. So we've been working on some proactive legislation here in Australia. There are two main pieces that you may have heard of. So the first is the Human Rights Children Born Alive Protection Bill. So this bill essentially provides compulsory medical care to children who are born alive during abortions, because currently in many states and territories, these children do not have to be given life-saving medical treatment. They can simply be left to die, which is absolutely heartbreaking. The second piece of legislation is around sex-elective abortions. So this would ban Medicare funding, so taxpayer dollars, going towards sex-elective abortions. Sex-elective abortions happen in Australia. We have the data to back that, and I'm sure that they're happening in New Zealand as well. So these are just two pieces of legislation that we're working on at the moment to try and build a culture of life in Australia. And I know that these are small things, but they will create big change, and they will ultimately save and protect little lives like this one here. So I really just want to encourage you. I know that it's been difficult in New Zealand, but there is so much that you can do still to protect unborn children and support their mothers and fathers. So thank you so much for being here. I know it's online today, but thank you so much for taking the time to be here. It does make a difference. Your voice matters, so please continue to be a voice for the unborn and for mothers and fathers, so that you can build a culture of life in New Zealand.
Fantastic, thank you. Now we are going to try and cross live to Parliament grounds, and we're going to try and catch up with Kate and Wayne. Have we got them live? We're still trying to get some audio for them. Okay, so look, what we'll do just to fill in, and we were ready for possible technical issues as you do when you go online, and actually I noticed in the comments section that a few people were talking about the fact that we wish we could march on the streets and still do it. Yeah, so do we. So we hope to be able to do it, and we hope you've marked the date, and we will tell you what that date is at the end. Are we able to cross to Wellington team? Not quite yet. We're still trying to get there. Okay. So what we'll do, we want you to know that this is part of an international March for Life. And all around the world, March for Lives are being held, which, as we heard from Agnes earlier, stemmed from the very first one in Washington, DC. And so we put together a compilation of the International March for Life so that you realise that you are part of an international pro-life movement. And of course, it finishes with what we hope to be doing in Wellington this time next year. So let's have a watch of that clip.
Hello, New Zealand. It is an honor to get to talk to all of you. I greet you from California and the United States on the West Coast, and I am thrilled that you are out there today to march for life, to march on behalf of the most vulnerable, the most precious, our children, our future. You are marching for mothers and fathers, for families, to support them, to nourish them, because we know that our countries are founded on families, are founded on the future, which is our children. Thank you for standing up. I come from the US, and we've had abortion here for over 45 years. Your country is now facing the legalization, the liberalization of abortion law that would allow the killing of children. Your prime minister, as you know, despite her supposed care for family, having her own child, wanting to protect those from the illness or the dangers of COVID-19, is backing the liberalization of the killing of children in the womb. Politicians in the United States for decades now have given up their responsibility to protect the vulnerable, to protect human life, and instead have been backing abortion on demand and allowing it to continue. Over 500,000 lives have been lost in New Zealand to abortion. And in the United States, it's over 60 million children lost. I first got involved in this fight over a decade ago when I was a teenager because I saw the crisis. And I know that you see it too. I recognize that this is the greatest human rights issue of our day. That how we treat the most vulnerable, what our laws fail to do or what they do for the most vulnerable is the true measure of our greatness and our justice as societies. And I recognize that if we allowed the killing of the unborn to continue, if we allowed the destruction of life at its most vulnerable, and if our laws did not protect that first human right, which is life, then we cannot have peace or justice in our societies. The death toll has been tremendous, and we march with a sense of solidarity and even grief in our hearts because of that toll, because of the lives lost, because of the women that have been harmed, the fathers and the mothers, because of the siblings that have lost their siblings, the cousins that have lost their cousins, the grandparents and parents that have lost their children to this great violence that is completely preventable, that we can completely stop if we have the laws and the society that instead protects and nourishes life. But the good news is that there is a movement globally right now to stand up for life, and you and I are a part of it. As you march, know that you are not marching alone. You are one of millions across the world, millions, including here in Washington, D.C., or even on the west coast of California and Los Angeles and San Francisco, millions from Poland to countries throughout Latin America to countries throughout Europe that are marching together for life because we recognize that we must defend the most vulnerable. Our movement is a winning one. This is the good news. Change is possible. I've seen this constantly here in the US when we work to educate my peers, millennials, Generation Z, young people with the facts about the violence of abortion, with the reality of what it does to that child, with the facts of fetal development and embryonic development, offering options and solutions to women and in communities. People do change their mind when they see the humanity of the child. So I want to encourage you as you march that if you're willing to be brave as you are and raise your voice and speak the truth and fight to support those that are in need in your communities who might be considering an abortion, and fight to change the law to make New Zealand a place of protection for all life. If you're willing to do that work and stand up despite the critics, despite the attacks, we can be victorious because we have the truth on our side. And ultimately, I believe we are on the side of love. Love that comes from a God who created all of us in his image and likeness and created every child in his image and likeness. So after you march today, you are making a bold statement and sending it all the way up to the Prime Minister and to all media and to all people in your country. But I want to leave you with 3 things that you can do even after today. Number 1, educate your neighbors and friends. There's powerful resources that expose what abortion is, that expose the humanity of the child, the harm of abortion to women. LiveAction.org, the organization that I lead, has a lot of these resources. I highly recommend to use these. They're free for use. All are the resources of the many amazing organizations doing great work in New Zealand and across the globe. So first of all, educate your friends and family. Share the facts about abortion, what the abortion procedure is. Share the facts so that other people can come to see the truth. Number 2, stay involved and engaged. Stay involved in the support work being done in New Zealand for women in crisis pregnancy. Stay involved in the organizations that are doing this amazing March for Life, that are doing advocacy, both politically and in communities to educate. Find out ways to volunteer, to donate, to be a part of the movement. The movement isn't just today. The movement is throughout the year until we reach victory, which is the complete ending of abortion and the rebuilding of a culture of life. And number 3, for all the people of faith out there, and anybody of good conviction can join the pro-life movement. But for those of faith, for those who pray, please pray. Pray with me. Pray with me for a global transformation, that people across continents, people throughout societies, across nations, can have a restored vision of humanity as made in God's image and likeness, of children as worth fighting for and precious, children that should be protected instead of killed, and of families as first, as important, as the building blocks of our societies. Let's pray for this global transformation. May it start here in the United States and may it be brought to New Zealand in the amazing work that you're doing. And together, as we educate, as we advocate and get involved and activated in our communities, and as we pray for an end to abortion, I believe because of a just and loving God, we will prevail together. Thank you so much. God bless you, my friends. And we will, I hope to see you in the future. We are in this together onwards.
That was a little bit of a bonus.
Hi guys.
Hi, how you going? We're still here.
Hi.
We can hear you. Fantastic job. Keep going.
Awesome. I'll keep going. It's so good to be back with you.
Yeah, that was an incredible clip, wasn't it? It was amazing.
It was really good. Yeah. Yeah, so we're still here in Wellington and it's not as drizzly anymore, so that's a relief. We're enjoying a bit of sunshine and we're gathered here with a few other families who have come down, which is really awesome. It's been a really great program so far. We're really excited to see all the comments and so many viewers tuning in right now in real time in New Zealand. So that's amazing. We're so happy. So as you'll see behind us, we have the pink and blue balloons. So if you've been to the March for Life before, you'll be familiar as we march through the streets. That normally we have at least 1,000 balloons that are being held by the families that are marching with us. And it's become quite a significant part of our March for Life and quite an iconic symbol of what we're doing on the day. So we wanted to incorporate the balloons today, even though we're just a small gathering, but we've chosen to have 36 balloons present today, 36 blue and pink balloons, and we've tied these up in front of Parliament steps. And sadly, this number 36 is to represent the number of unborn baby boys and girls who are aborted in New Zealand every single day, which is horrific. But we felt it was important to have a symbolic representation of that here with us today. So the next thing we've got up for you, which is pretty awesome, is we have a speech from 3 young women. And their names are Alia, Lucy, and Samara. They will introduce themselves. Come on over. So these are 3 young women who are students in Christchurch, and they're going to share a speech that they've prepared for you today about why they march for life. So I'll just hand it over to Lucy.
Yes.
My name is Lucy Malone, and I am standing here today to represent all the pro-life young adults that cannot be here. Currently in New Zealand, abortion is provided from conception until birth. Statistics indicate that 1/5 total pregnancies in New Zealand are terminated, and 1 in 4 women will have an abortion over the course of their lives. 36 babies are aborted in New Zealand each day. According to the World Health Organization, there are an estimated 40 to 50 million abortions globally each year, and 105,000 per day, which is 5,208 an hour and 86 per minute. The government shows us statistics like these to convince us of their points, but each baby that they have turned into a number had a face, a personality, a family, and a life. Could you look all those babies in the eye and tell them that you were glad their life was ended, so yours could be better? If we do nothing, then nothing will change, and countless more children will be killed every year, while our government, which we voted in, watches on. Good people will be silenced by our government's powerful voice. The brutality will continue, and nothing will change. That is why we are here today, even if it is not as usual. Because seeing these injustices against our most vulnerable and doing nothing will change nothing. And today we march for change. We march to change the way people see our most vulnerable, to see them as precious little humans and not as numbers or insignificant clumps of cells. We march to change the way people think, even if only a little. We march to change people's minds and perspectives. We march to change the world for the better. Because doing nothing will change nothing. In conclusion, in the words of Pope John Paul II, never tire of speaking up in the defense of life.
Hi, my name is Aaliyah Winstead. I am here today to recognise that the baby is not the only one who is hurt through abortion, but that it also has a devastating and traumatic effect on both the mother and the father. According to a study conducted by the University of Otago, women who have an abortion are 30% more likely to develop mental health problems such as depression, anxiety disorders, and even suicidal thoughts. While health professionals tell women that abortion is a simple medical procedure which is quick and easy, there are countless testimonies from women who talk about the horrible guilt and shame which followed their abortion, even for many decades after the event. And then there are the fathers who talk about the intense guilt and lasting grief as they reflect upon their lost opportunity of fatherhood to their child which was never given a chance to live. While some may try to reassure them that it was for the best, deep down they know that ending the life of an innocent human being is never justified, yet this is the heavy burden which they now carry. In 2020 alone, there were 13,246 abortions in New Zealand, which means that there are that many mothers and fathers who are walking around wounded because of their past decisions. We are not here today to judge those who have made the decision to abort their baby, but we are here to support them, letting them know that forgiveness and restoration is possible. But to avoid this kind of hurt in the future, we need to expose the truth about the harmful effects of abortion to everyone involved. In the words of Lila Rose, we must build our society as it once was founded, upon respect for life and right to life.
Hi, my name is Samara Wednesday. Even though I would have preferred to march with thousands of people in person as I did last year, we are here today because even the COVID-19 restrictions cannot stop us from being a voice for the voiceless. While the terrible injustice of abortion remains within our country, we cannot stay silent. While our society refuses to recognise the reality of human life within the womb, we cannot stay silent. While abortion remains the leading cause of death within New Zealand, we cannot stay silent. While mothers and fathers are forced into thinking that abortion is the only option for them, we cannot stay silent. While our country holds one of the most liberal and barbaric abortion laws in the world, we cannot stay silent. While thousands of mothers and fathers are suffering post-abortion guilt and remorse, we cannot stay silent. Until every pre-born human being is given a right to life, we cannot stay silent. And it's for this reason we will continue to stand as a voice for the voiceless, year after year, generation after generation, whether in person or online, until abortion becomes unthinkable once again within our nation.
Really good, thank you. Really good.
Agree, that was really powerful to hear from three young women, and we're so thankful that they were able to deliver their speech to you online today. So, although we march for life to celebrate life, we also grieve the thousands of unborn lives lost to abortion in our nation every year. This is a true tragedy and a crime against humanity. We're going to lay a memorial wreath here today to remember the 570,000 babies who've lost their lives to abortion since December 1977, when abortion was legalised in New Zealand. If you'd like to join us as we lay this wreath, you're more than welcome to join us. We invite you to stand where you are in your home, and we're going to lay the wreath with a couple of families that are here right now. So we'll just walk up now with a wreath. Gonna come on up, guys. I'm gonna lay the wreath down. We'll just, yeah, thank you. Thanks, guys. Which one? It is with great heaviness that we think about the gravity of this, yet we pray from this deep sadness. A resolution of courage will rise up within you to continue in the battle to end abortion in New Zealand and boldly build a culture of life where every life is protected and valued from conception to natural death. So let us not lose hope.
And what about hope? You know, I'm hopeful. Because tomorrow you and I can go and help at one of the many local pregnancy centres around the country who give support to women who are suffering with a pregnancy, struggling with it. We can do something. I'm hopeful because your heart and my heart and the heart of the organisations here will never say nothing. We'll always stand up. We'll always be a voice for the voiceless. I'm hopeful because he believes in life, and where there is life, there is hope. So let's keep the hope and keep standing up for life. We've got this. Keep up the good work.
Amen. And so with all of that said, it's goodbye from Wayne and I here in Wellington, and we're going to cross back over to Bob and Agnes in the studio. Thank you, guys.
See you.
Fantastic. Thank you, Wayne and Kate.
Bob, I mean, it was just very heartwarming actually to hear our young people, young women in this country who are also being vocal for the young and the voiceless. So thank you very much, Kate, Wayne, Lucy, Samara, and all the families that joined you there today. Particularly pleased that you stood there on the steps of the building that we pass our laws to stand for the voiceless and the unborn. Really appreciate it.
And you may have noticed that I promised you a video of people marching around the world, but that video didn't work, so we got the extra bonus of having Lila Rose from Live Action, who did a message for us last year, but you may not have heard it. Do you know Lila Rose, Agnes?
Well, I follow her. I'm a big fan of hers. Have you met her, Bob?
Yeah, actually, at the same conference that I met Ryan Bomberger. Right. So it was a very good conference, and I asked both of them to come to New Zealand, so we're still working on that. Now, we just need to tell you about next year. We're just about finished, but we need you to save the date for the 3rd of December 2022, because we hope to be back in person on the streets of Wellington. The other thing is that in the comments section, please tell us where you've been watching from and what you've really appreciated about this online March for Life. We've had a look at the comments, and there are people from all over New Zealand watching, but also all over the world. So that has been very exciting. And also keep an eye out for marches happening in your local area. Regional area marches will be happening, COVID permitting. It's been a fantastic march online. It's been a new experience for us, and it's probably been a new experience for you. We've noticed that there's been some online marches around the world, in the UK and the US, so we've been able to get a few lessons from them of how to do it. But thanks to our team, to Scott Navy Events, and also to Ken Burst, who's done huge work behind the scenes to make this all happen. And thank you, Agnes, for being co-host.
Oh, absolutely, my pleasure. Thank you for having me. It's been wonderful to join you today on this virtual March for Life. I hope to see you all in person next year, and I hope that you have been encouraged or motivated in some way from today to continue to celebrate life, to continue to value life, and continue to fight for life. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Goodbye.
Goodbye.